and welcome to another episode. This is episode number 24, and the last time that I filmed an episode was about, I think, a little less than 2 weeks ago, and I figured I just wanted to kind of like release all of the stuff that has been going on in my mind. So here we are. So let's just get right into it. So first up, I have a pair of mittens. My first one that are done. Ta-da! So yes, first off, I wanted to say that last time I did misname them. For some reason I mistranslated them. I think not for some reason. I know the reason. Basically, they're just, like in a language, you just have like your basic language and you know that, but then you have new terms, jargon, knitting terms that you might not know, and sometimes it's a bit hard trying to understand that. I'll actually get into that maybe towards the end, but in any case, I made a mistake in my first translation. So I'm pretty sure I called these the Nordic braided mittens, but actually the Japanese name is Nordic moyo no amikomi mitten. So the true translation is Nordic motif colorwork mittens, which makes more sense because there are no braids in this mitten. But yes, I think first I should start with the specs, and then I'll show you like a bit more close up how it looks, and then I'll kind of like share my experiences, I guess. Yes, so these are the Nordic motif colorwork mittens from Yoko Hatta. And it's from her most recent book that came out, I think, towards the end of November last year. This is her book called Hatta Yoko no Seamless Nitto, so Yoko Hatta's Seamless Knits. So this is basically a book mostly with garments, but I think there are, about six accessories in here as well. And I have a picture of the one that I made in here. So, here they are. Yes. So, yes. Okay. So, I feel like I'm filming my first episode for some reason. But what did I want to say about these? Yes, specs. So I knit these using 3.5mm needles for the ribbing here below, and then for the colorwork I used 4.5mm, and then the yarn I used is from an Icelandic brand called Istex, and I used their Kambgarn, which is 100% merino. It has a yardage of 150 meters per 50 grams, so I'm guessing just kind of like a sports weight yarn. And then the colors are sky light blue 1214 and sky blue 1215. Yes, so here's a close-up of the mitten. I can even wear them actually. Yeah. Ooh, I can already see some pilling here. I'm pretty sure you should be able to see this. But yeah. What did I want to say about this? Okay, yeah, maybe I can the construction and then the use, because I have been able to use these I think about 2 or 3 times. Once on the bike, and then once being like carried on top of a bike. So both with kind of like fast speeds, so to speak, which makes a lot of difference, I can tell you, when wearing mittens, like vs wearing mittens walking vs being on a bike. In any case, yes, so the way this is constructed, I didn't actually check how to do a cast on, or which cast on was required. I just did a provisional cast on because I just like the way it looks, like the neat edge that it has, and it is stretchy. Then I did a 2x2 rib, and then I decreased some stitches here at the wrist, and then as you can see here maybe a bit, I did the increases. Oh. The increases are done like here at the thumb, and then I also didn't really check how to do the thumb because, well, so in the pattern it said that you do like a loop cast on, the one with the, I don't know, the loops. And I decided to do kind of like the same that you might do with like an afterthought heel. So I just put some scrap yarn, knitted the scrap yarn, then knitted like the actual row on top, and then once I got to like, I think about here, I then went back and then I knit the thumb. Yeah. And yeah, basically you just keep on knitting and then it's time to decrease. So yeah, that's kind of like how I did this. Knitting this was actually very fun. I had a really good time. It's since kind of like learning from, so basically what happened was I in total knit about 2.5 mittens. So the first one, instead of using 4.5 millimeters for the hand, I used 3.5 millimeters, which was kind of like the recommended size. And what happened was that the mitten was far too small, and so I checked the pattern and I had actually met gauge. The only thing was that the size of the mittens were just really small, like the circumference, like your hand, just your 4 fingers here. I think the finished mitten was 17 centimeters, and that was just way too tiny for me. So what I ended up doing was, because I had already finished all the way till like the top here, I think already like down the line I knew it was gonna be too tight, and I was hoping maybe it would block out, and spoiler, it didn't. But yeah, I thought it was gonna, no, it was not gonna it was not gonna block out, but I just wanted to at the very least finish a mitten because I'd never done that before. And so yeah, I think I already said that last episode, but in any case, I went from 3.5 millimeters to 4.5, and this worked out splendidly. It fits both in like height and width. I'm very happy, it's very comfortable. So, like I said, I had 2 opportunities to actually, like, that's my shoulder. I had 2 opportunities to actually use these, and so the first time I didn't actually check the temperature, but I believe it was below 0 degrees because I was biking and I looked at the pond that was next to me, and there was like frozen pond water in there. So below 0 degrees Celsius, and these did not help. I think I biked for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but my hands were rather cold. I do have to say that they did help, because I might have lost a finger if I didn't have anything on, because it was just that cold. Because I remember being in front of my apartment and just feeling like it wasn't that cold, but then I got on the bike and just the wind was like so painful. But yes, so I could feel like the wind coming through all of the holes, and I guess that's on me because I went a couple of needle sizes up, so the fabric is less thick, and I don't think I'll be able to actually wear these with, how would you call them, mitten liners. I don't think that would be possible, just because there's really not that much space here at the thumb. Like, it fits snugly, it's fine, but having an extra layer of mitten would just not work with these mittens. So yeah, for really cold weather, these won't work. However, yesterday, I think it was about 10 degrees in the evening. It kind of felt like that. And I wore these and they were actually fine. They were good. They were great. So I have kind of like relegated these mittens now to, I guess, like, how would you call it? Like mid cold weather. So yeah, I am looking to actually make mittens that will withstand more harsher temperatures. But I'm very happy with them. I really love the design. And these are great. Yeah. Did I have anything else to say about these? I don't think so. Okay, so then I'm going to be moving on to the fuzzy pixie hood that I've been working on for quite some time. So this is a design by Fable Knitwear. It's called the Fuzzy Pixie Hood, and the yarn that I used was one fingering weight yarn and then one lace weight yarn. So I used Undercover Otter, which is like hand-dyed yarn from the Netherlands. So I used I believe it's called Squirm, the Squirm sock yarn, and this is 205 meters per 50 grams, and it's 85% pre-shrunk extra superwash merino and then 15% nylon. And then I used some silk mohair that I got from Japan, and that one is 80% mohair, 20% silk. No idea concerning the yardage, but it was a lace weight yarn. And yeah, what do you have to say about this? This is actually my second fuzzy pixie hood. I made one previously in like a icy blue tone and I really liked it, but despite me adjusting for the amount of hair that I had, it was still kind of like, it didn't really look good unless I have my hair like this, like very tightly twisted. So I wanted to make one that would have more space in the back for my hair, like if I have like a bun or something like that. So yeah, so this is it. Basically, I'm actually done in terms of knitting. So it's also wet because I have been blocking it. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of space at the back, which I think is gonna look great. So yes, the last oh, did I even mention the needles? Yeah, I used 4mm needles for knitting, and then basically this is like, okay, rewind a bit. So the construction of this is basically you knit a long strip here and then you pick up stitches and then you just knit down, like basically as the pattern tells you. And I used 4mm needles for the knitting, for the knit stitches, and then I used 3.5 for the purl stitches. But I think somewhere along the line I started to teach myself how to knit bi-directional, so left right, from right to left and left to right, both knitting from right to left with English style and then left to right with continental style. Yes. And what else did I do? No, I think that's it. So I used for this part basically just both 4mm needles. I felt that actually turned out to work really nicely, because since I was like holding the yarn in the same hand, the hand that I have learned how to hold tension, the tension was really good after a couple of tries. So yes, like I said, I don't know what I was saying, but I actually just went to the living room to get the original one, so maybe I can even kind of like compare that. So yeah, way bigger. And as you can see, the construction is actually a bit different. So with this one, I ended up, what did I end up doing? Yes, so I ended up folding the yarn at the bottom and then making like an I-cord and then feeding it through the hole so that I could like tie it also in the back, because I thought that would be nice. And then I did some 2x2 ribbing for more coverage, and I didn't want to do the exact same thing for this one, and so I was thinking about what I could do for this one. First, I had thought to just make like a dicky as well, and then I don't know what happened to that idea, and I kind of discarded that. And so I ended up with this scarf idea. I thought this would also be really nice because I could basically finish all of the yarn that I had. I ended up running out of the silk mohair before I did of the fingering weight yarn. So my idea essentially is that I have this like this, and then I just need to sew it on essentially. And then this is like sewn on. I am not too sure how I'm gonna sew it on. I think I'm just gonna do it like this in an even way, and then basically have it like this so that I can have it like this. That's kind of like my idea, so that I have essentially knit the same pattern but in a different type of way. So this is not in Fable Knitwear's pattern, but I just kind of like I just winged it essentially. It wasn't too hard. I just did the Judy's Magic cast on. I casted on 40 stitches, so this is like 20 stitches wide, and so I just knit straight, and then I did a Kitchener's stitch. So I'm just gonna use one of those seamless seaming methods to knit this on, and then it'll be done, and I think it's gonna look really cute. I wasn't too sure if this was gonna be long enough because like I said, I ran out of the silk mohair, but yeah, definitely after blocking it became even longer, and so I think this is going to work out, and I'm very excited to see the final result. I'm still kind of like contemplating on how tight I would like to stitch these two together, in the sense of like I wouldn't want like a 1-to-1 horizontal vs vertical stitch. I think I might have more stitches bunched up here, so that I can also like make a more like tighter, more snug fit here around my face, so that it'll keep me warm. So yeah, this will most certainly be done by the end of today. Basically it's already dried, I think, after blocking. It's just slightly damp, but I think it's good enough, or like it's dried enough for me to seam these two together. And then we're moving on to an old friend. This, what's it even called? I didn't, because so I didn't have the name for a while because I had shipped the book in which the pattern was in separately from like flying back to the Netherlands from Japan. So what's it called? It's called Flower Motif Bag. It's this one. Yeah, it's this one right here that I'm making. This is a design from Yoko Imamura, and yeah, so yeah, it's a flower motif bag. The yarn that I'm using is Japanese yarn from the company Hamanaka, It's the Eco Andaria yarn. It's basically, well, according to the company, its most popular like summer yarn, and it's 100% viscose, and I got this in the color beige, color number 23, and the yardage is 100 meters per 50 grams. So a bit about the construction of this bag. Essentially, well, this is what I have at the moment. Not that much progress from, I think, I don't know how many months ago, half a year ago, something like that. I basically like crocheted the 4 squares that I had together. So yeah, basically the construction is that you knit a bunch of these flower squares and then you crochet them together for them to like form like this cylinder type shape, and then you do the circle for the bottom of the bag, and then you do the a couple of rows for the top, and then some handles. Yes, so this is how it's looking right now. So I am using a 3.5 millimeter hook for this one, and yeah, the story behind this bag is that I actually had made this. I was making this for my sister because I was showing her the book while I was in Japan, and she thought that this was really cute, but she wanted something more functional than just the tiny bag. She wanted a longer one so that she could use that for work and like have her laptop in it during the summer. And I was like, I'll do that for you. But what happened was that I ended up not buying the right amount of yarn for this bag. I actually acquired the exact amount to make the original bag. So I figured I would just make one of these bags and then try and find like a similar yarn, which I think there is here in the Netherlands. I'll try and find a similar yarn and then make it again for her. But yeah, this is yeah, it's very different working with this as to, it's crochet is completely different from knitting, but even just in terms of crochet, the yarn is very funny to work with. And I was actually hoping that if I would just try and like crochet these together, I would get more motivation to finish this off. And I haven't done much since actually crocheting this together, but I think I will like make at least two flowers this month. We'll see. Maybe I'll just feel like an adrenaline rush and then end up doing all of it, but I guess we'll just have to see in the future. So yeah, that's it for this crochet bag. There are actually a lot of really nice bags in this book. I think the circle bag, which is also here on the front, is also really cute. But I don't know, I'm mainly a knitter, and crochet has just kind of like come into my quote-unquote repertoire. So I don't know if I'm gonna be knitting more of these bags anytime soon. In any case, yes. So a couple of days ago, I think even a week at this point, I brought out my 2024 winter knitting plans, and I believe I had 3 sweaters that I wanted to make, 2 vests that I wanted to design, 1 sock, and then 2 mittens, and then maybe a pair of shorts, which is obviously a lot, and I'm not like the fastest knitter, and I tend to knit very sporadically, or at the very least that's kind of like how it has been for the last couple of months. Knitting for me is at this moment very much so a creative outlet in terms of like getting to dive deep into a subject and like learning more, learning knitting from different countries and just learning more. So it's a creative outlet in that sense, but it's also this thing that really calms me down a lot. So I tend to knit kind of like what I want, like how I'm feeling, instead of like very project based. And so that's why I also have a lot of projects that are like just in various states of completion. And on one side it kind of stresses me out, but also on the other side I also really like it. Maybe I just kind of feel a bit self-conscious coming here and just being like, oh, I'm almost done with this one, and I'm almost done with that one, and I'm almost done with this one, but like none of them are like done. And then I'm like, hey, but I casted something new on. But I will say though, I did finish these mittens since like the last episode, so I felt like I can cast on a new project. This is the Hoshi no Seta, the star sweater from Sanae Nasu, from her latest book Amimono Noto, so knitting notes. Honestly, the more that I've been looking through this book, the more I've been falling in love with the patterns. There's this one pattern that I at first wasn't necessarily really interested in, but I'm just like, oh, I need to knit this now. It's this one called the Autumn Sweater. So it's actually knit with Rowan yarn, which is very accessible to me here in the Netherlands, but it's just really expensive because it's like, it uses, what does it use? It uses, it uses Rowan felted tweed, and it also uses Rowan like silk, mohair silk haze, something like that. And I don't, as a student, I just don't have the money to chill out. So that's just gonna be a dream for a while. And in the meantime, I still have lots of yarn that I want to use for other patterns. In any case, yeah, so I have been working on the star sweater, which you can see here. Beautiful, beautiful star motif sweater. So yeah, the yarn that I used was Garn, a Danish yarn. So this is 100%, oh yeah, Garn Vital. Vital is the yarn name. So it's 100% wool, and it has a yardage of 150 meters per 50 grams. So I'm guessing like a DK weight yarn, which is actually not the recommended weight, or at least the yarn used in like for the sweater in the book, I believe is 135, but I wasn't really too sure how much difference that would make, but so far so good. In any case, I used these two colors. One is 0100 and this one is 6500, and the needles that I've been using are 3mm needles for the ribbing and 4.5mm for the Colourwork. Yes. Wait. Huh? Wait, that doesn't make any sense. No, that doesn't make any sense. I used 2.5mm for the ribbing, and then 3mm for the body, and then like for the plain collar, and then 4.5 for the Colourwork. So I actually made a swatch first. Also, I just love the motif. I think it's really, really pretty. But yes, I did this. I did basically. Yes, what did I do? Yeah, so here are the two swatches. I did the bottom one, as you can see, flat. There's nothing at the back. I did it flat because I used bidirectional knitting because the tension, well, in general, I have now the same tension going right as going left. And so it's really nice being able to do that here. But then for the Colourwork, I wasn't able to keep the same tension. Well, I don't think that I would be. And so for the Colourwork, I just used this I use this technique called like Faux in the round, I think, that I saw in a video from Roxanne Richardson, because I wasn't too sure if I would have enough yarn for the sweater due to the yardage discrepancy. And so I was like, I'm just gonna try and save as much yarn as I can, so if I don't have enough yarn, I'll like just unravel this swatch and then use it. But yeah, I did this in 3mm and then this in 3.5, and I got the correct measurements for the plain swatch, but for this one it was far too tight. I've really noticed that my Colourwork becomes really tight, so I generally going up one needle size doesn't do it for me, and so I had to go up 3 needle sizes. So instead of 3.5 I did 4.5, and I actually didn't swatch for that, but it worked out well for me. But yeah, let me show you what I have at the moment. I have one sleeve done. So essentially the construction of this one is as follows. So you have to first knit the sleeves from bottom to top. Well, basically it gets suggested to start here and then later go back to do the 1x1 ribbing for the wrists, but I just did the provisional cast on and then I increased here until I got the desired amount of stitches for the arm and then kept on going in pattern. And then what else? Yeah, this is the back. You can see the increase is actually here, I think. Yeah, or the back. This is like the part here, the underarm. Yes. What was I gonna say about this? So that's kind of like basically how I worked. I worked up until here, and then it was time to switch needles. At least this is how I first did it. So I first used 4.5mm for this, and I knit up till I think about this much, and then I noticed that the moment, well, I basically noticed that like all the blue here was like too big. The stitches were far too big because basically technically I was doing Colourwork, but it was so little. I mean, like if you look at the bottom of the star, it's like one stitch and then like 15 stitches of blue, and so that wasn't working. The fabric was just like too, like it looked kind of weird, and so I decided to rip it out and then just knit in 3mm. Yeah, was it? Yeah, 3mm. I decided to knit in 3mm for this section here, which in hindsight I think I should have maybe gone to 4mm and then switched to 4.5 instead of continuing with 3mm, because now it kind of seems like a bit too tight. But maybe if I put more effort into blocking, it will like block a bit more out. But yeah, I don't know, it looks very noticeable now that I'm holding it now in front of the camera, but IRL it didn't really look that way. But I don't know, maybe something to think about, maybe something to look into for the second sleeve. Yeah, and what else? Yeah, the Colourwork, gorgeous. I don't know if I already said like the way it's knit up. Yeah, the rest of like I think I forgot to talk about the rest of the construction. So yeah, the arms are knit from bottom to top, and then you put this on hold. You do the second sleeve, and then you do the body, and then you attach all of them. Basically, you start knitting in the round for the entire sweater, and then once. Yeah, it's just a raglan construction, so you're just increasing at the arms, and then yeah, that's it. You just like sew in the holes that are under the armpits, and then you're basically done. yeah, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure this out because it's really like I've said it before, but it's like really obvious now. Maybe I should try and do a better job of blocking. So yeah, this is how far I am. Also, in hindsight, I think I would have wanted this in green, like a light green body and then dark green like colorwork. But I was thinking I could maybe like design my own sweater and do it then. So who knows? In any case, that's everything for the star sweater at the moment. I've had a really good time knitting it though, despite like the setbacks. It's been a fun experience. Yeah, then moving to the final piece, I actually have something that I'm working on right now as a gift, and this is I think the only time that I'm actually going to be able to show this on the podcast, because I need to give this away by the end of next week. Yeah, so this is gonna be a scarf, and actually this kind of like ties into what I've been doing the past couple of days, because I was kind of looking back when I was preparing for this podcast episode. I was looking back on like the things that I had been doing this week in terms of like not knitting, like physically knitting, but in terms of like technical things, stuff that I had learned. And I was looking into zippers, how to install them, and because I have been wanting to make a garment with zippers for a while now. There's this one type of zipper sweater by Sandnes Garn. They don't sell it online like a digital copy. You actually have to buy the book. And so yeah, I've been waiting for that for a while to, I don't know, I've been trying to, it has been in the back of my mind. So I was looking into that, and I was also looking into patterns that I might be able to knit that weren't in English or Japanese or Dutch, because a couple of weeks back there was this pattern, the sock pattern that I found that was only in I think either Swedish or Dutch, and I picked it up in Dutch, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of like hard. Well, not necessarily hard, but I didn't really understand the terms. And so I had this kind of like epiphany of like, well, if I don't understand a Dutch pattern, then obviously I wouldn't understand a Danish pattern as well, or a Norwegian or a Swedish pattern all that well either. And so maybe my understanding, okay, sorry, this is a little bit of a weird thought. So I was thinking maybe me potentially not understanding a Danish or a Norwegian pattern might not be because I don't understand the language. It might just be that I don't understand the knitting terms. And so I thought, you know, maybe I should like really test this out. And so I went to this website called mayflower.dk, I believe. Mayflower is a Danish like yarn brand, and they have a ton, I think about more than 800 patterns that are for free, but they're only in Danish. And I thought maybe I can actually knit one. And so I found this scarf called Berlin Tørklædet. I don't speak Danish, so that was my best attempt. So the English translation of that is the Berlin scarf. And yeah, I'll just put up a picture somewhere here. And it's basically this very simple triangular scarf that has 5 different patterns on it. So moss stitching, or moss stitch, or seed stitch, and then like I don't know how you call it, like Rijtjes, a diamond stitch, and then you have a couple of knit and purl, motifs. I think like broken rib. I'm not too sure what it's exactly called. And then at the end again you have garter stitch. And I thought maybe I can try and knit this. And so I looked at the pattern and I found on, I believe, drops.com this translator of knitting terms. So from Danish, I put it from Danish to English, and so I basically went through the pattern and started learning the different types of Danish knitting terms. Yeah, so I did that, and everything that I couldn't find on Drops, what I would do is I would put it into YouTube, and then I would find a tutorial of exactly what was meant. And so then that's kind of like how I learned things, because also if you look closely in the pattern, there's the patterns, the 5 different motifs. They are separated by a horizontal braid called, in Danish it's called vandrette. I am pretty sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but yeah, and so it didn't show up on the Drops page, and so I looked it up on YouTube and I found out that it was just like a horizontal braid, like I guess you call it Latvian braid, but it doesn't have 2 colors. But in any case, I figured it out. So I was pretty happy with myself. Like I'm pretty excited to get this finished. I started last night and I still have about half a day to start to, like, at least I would like to finish the garter stitch and then work up, if I can, the second motif. And so I know that I'll have enough time to make this scarf in time. I don't know if that was a good sentence, but yeah. So it's basically, the way it's constructed is you start off with, also it's a free pattern, by the way, so I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. So basically you cast on 5 stitches and then you keep increasing every 4th row on one side, and then you get to the 3rd motif and then you start decreasing halfway through, and then once you have the entire scarf you use an I-cord to just kind of like finish it off. Yeah, so I'll try and make pictures of this before I give it. And so basically, actually, it's kind of like, I have another picture, I'll put it up here. It is essentially used as a neck tie, a neck scarf, but I wanted this to be like a bigger scarf. So the yarn that the pattern suggests is 100% merino yarn with a yardage of 175 meters per 50 grams. And the pattern also says to use 3mm needles. I swapped that out. I decided to use some Drops Big Merino unicolor that I've had in my stash for forever at this point, and it's a superwash treated extra fine merino wool. And the suggested hook size is 5mm, but I decided to use 4.5 meters, and the yardage is 75 meters per 50 grams. So it's like Aran weight, I believe, yarn. Yes, and the color is number 14. I'm pretty sure this is called Forest Green. So I can also give you a bit of a close-up on how it looks at the moment. Yeah. So it has been really fun, and it has given me more confidence in terms of like looking for other patterns that I might understand. I do have to say this though, like obviously I speak Dutch, and then I have studied Swedish for on and off over the years. So when like looking into this pattern and trying to understand that, the knowledge of those languages has definitely helped me understand things, because I was also kind of like trying to look from the perspective of someone who speaks English and who might not have any like experience or knowledge when it comes to northern, how would you call it, northern Germanic languages. In any case, I wouldn't know how that would be for those people, but for me it was quite doable, also using Google Translate. So yes, like I said, I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. Now, moving on to the second to last topic of this podcast episode, and I'm actually surprised I have nothing with regards to Sock Saga this episode, which is wild because I feel like I have been knitting like socks, or have been working on socks every week for like the past 6 months or so. But yes, I am going to talk about a gift that I got for Christmas. I forgot to mention it last time. Ta-da! I got some knitting lights from my boyfriend. So yeah, these are really cool. I don't know exactly like the specifications, to be honest, but ta-da! So this is how they work. They're like 2 separate lights, and I can change the warmth. It has like 3 different levels, and also the brightness. If I press the off and on button, it can actually, I don't know if it's working yet. Yeah, so I can change the brightness as well. And the way this charges is via a USB thingy here. It also has one on this side, but you actually don't have to charge them both. You can use either one and it will work splendidly. I have been using these for, I guess, yeah, the past 3 or 4 weeks. Well, ever since I got this, essentially. And I've been using them on, just the darker colors at night. And they work really well. I would highly recommend getting these if you're working with darker yarns, especially at night. Yeah, I have been wanting these for quite some time, so I'm really, really happy that I have them. And I love how sturdy they are, because I can just like basically like change the direction of the light, so I can adjust it to kind of like where I'm holding my needles. So that's great. Moving on to the last thing I wanted to talk about. So there's this company, I've spoken a lot about them. They're called Daruma, and they are a Japanese sewing and knitting yarn type company. And basically what they have is every season they have these new releases of kits. So a part of their business model is that they have knit kits, projects that you can do, but they only sell them for a limited amount of time, and you can't get the patterns, or at least not always. You can't always get them as like a PDF or in a knitting pattern book. And so once they're like kind of like the period, which could be anywhere to from like I think 3 months up until 6 months, that you can actually purchase this kit. Like if you don't get there in time, you don't have the chance of actually getting the pattern. And yeah, that's something that kind of like sucks, especially if you don't live in Japan. I'm not even sure if they even ship things outside of Japan, but I can imagine the price being absolutely expensive. I wanted to say absorbent, well, that's not a word, but it's gonna be expensive. So I found this really beautiful crochet pattern. It's called the Floral Crochet Motif Pullover. I love how like subtle it is. The pattern seems so interesting, but it's done with very simple techniques. It's basically just granny squares and a couple of color changes here and there, but it's done in such a way that it makes it very interesting, or at least I find it to look more interesting than most of like the granny square garments that I see. So I was like, I really want to make this. So what I did, I Sherlocked the heck out of this pattern. I downloaded all of the pictures, not only in the dark color but also in the light color. I tried to figure out like the amount of rounds in the granny square, the different types of like color changes, and also the like the frequency, basically like the how it's like done essentially. And I managed to map it out. I think I spent like a good amount of my evening a couple of weeks ago trying to figure this out, also because I've never even like crocheted a sweater with squares, which like, you know, the way it's like constructed is completely different. So yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to map that out, and I think I managed to be successful. I knew the yarn, I knew the what's it called, the measurements as well, like the bust measurement, and what else did I know? Yeah, and the hook size. So I ended up like kind of like calculating things. I managed to calculate the gauge for the granny squares, had to use some Pythagoras. And yeah, so everything is set. I would love to make this. If I had the yarn now, I would crochet this like instantly. Like I'd put all of my energy in it and finish it. But yeah, I'm just kind of like waiting for the next time that I'm going to buy yarn, which is gonna be not very soon because I have bought a lot of yarn for projects that I'm working on. So it's gonna take a while until this shows up. Maybe completely towards the end of the year, who knows. But yeah, I think that is everything for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon in the next episode. Okay, bye bye.